The fact that y'all don't know that praise and worship leaders get paid and sometimes the team get paid is crazy. So you don't pay your water bill in tongues, right? So you don't take this, whoop this. When you put the church in a building, it became a business.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So for the past week or so, we've all been watching this story about the worship leader Mahogany unfold. And every time I post about it or read the comments on other videos, there's this other conversation that explodes in the comment sections. It's a debate that has been raging in the church for decades, but it's come roaring back to the surface. And that is the spicy, controversial topic of whether or not churches should pay their worship leaders and musicians. And honestly, a lot of people are just shocked that this is even a thing. I saw so many comments just like this one from Carly, who wrote, "Wow, didn't know people get paid in church to be a worship leader." Carly and everyone else who feels the same way, I get it. If you've only ever been in smaller churches or served as a volunteer, the idea can seem strange. But today I want to react to some of the most common arguments I see against paying musicians and explain why I believe it's not only acceptable but often necessary and biblical. Let's get into it. Okay, so the biggest and most passionate argument is the spiritual one. It's summed up perfectly by Eugene Layton, who said, "If people can't offer their services to God without charge, then they're in it for the wrong reason." And I hear this sentiment from a lot of people, like Eddie, who said, "You don't have to be, shouldn't be, paid to lead worship. God pays you. This is the world and not Christ." And I want to address the heart of this because it comes from a good place. Worship is a service to God, but we have to make a critical distinction here. We don't pay people for their worship. We pay them for their skill and their time. And there's a huge difference between a worship singer and a worship leader. I saw an absolutely brilliant comment from Music Lover that breaks this down better than I ever could. They wrote, "She wasn't a worship singer, she's a worship leader, and there is a big difference. Depending on the congregation, being the worship leader is a lot more involved than simply opening one's mouth to let sound come out in front of people. In a church I once went to, the worship leader had to learn all parts, bass, tenor, alto, and soprano, and help each of those sections learn their parts. The worship leader also had to play the music, which means that in addition to learning all four voice parts, he also had to spend time practicing how to play the piano for the songs. Some music is copyrighted, which means the worship leader had to write letters for permission to those songs, as well as find out whatever licensing fees would be involved, meaning find out how much the copyright holder would charge the church to use a copyrighted song. Then have meetings with church administrators about the costs involved." The worship leader was also responsible for locating new music so that people weren't singing the same 10 songs over and over again for years on end. To do all these tasks as the worship leader takes up much more time than it takes to simply be the worship singer who only has to come to 1-2 hour rehearsal per week and then spend some time practicing at home. Unless the worship leader is independently wealthy, the reality is that they have to do something to earn the pay needed to pay their bills. If they're going to spend that much time doing work, I don't think it's wrong to pay them for that time. I think it's only right to pay them for all the time they are devoting to the task. That, my friends, is a job description. That is administrative work, musical direction, and spiritual preparation that takes hours and hours every single week. A user named Random-G7 made this fantastic point. Think of your own profession and imagine someone asking you to just do your job for free because it's for Jesus. Why we expect professional musicians to be an exception to this is baffling to me. And that is the key. We are compensating for professional level labor. Now, a lot of people bring up the Bible, so let's go there. The Bible is actually incredibly clear about this. I saw a great exchange in the comments. FMB Idea wrote, "It is in the Bible that the ministers eat from the ministry. You can't muzzle an ox when it is plowing the field." And Mr. Dennis added, "Before you go there, pay for musicians and singers is biblical." They are 100% correct. That muzzle the ox line is from Deuteronomy, and Paul quotes it in 1 Timothy when he says, "The laborer deserves his wages." Another commenter, Apostle Crystal, pointed out that being a worship leader was an actual office in scripture, and that David, the most famous worship leader of all, was well taken care of because of his gift. The Levites, the temple musicians and priests, were supported full time by the tithes of the other 11 tribes. The biblical model is actually one of support for those doing the work of the ministry. Now, let's bring this back specifically to Mahogany, because the comments have given us so much more context. A few people pointed out a crucial fact. Mahogany is a nurse. This wasn't her only source of income. This fact completely dismantles the argument that she was in it for the money. And as Alicia Adams beautifully pointed out, even after they told her she wouldn't be paid, her response was humility, and she went on to lead worship. This wasn't about the money for her, it was about her service. But that does not give the church the right to devalue her professional labor. This whole situation highlights a toxic dynamic that Mr. Dennis pointed out. He said some pastors will agree to a salary knowing they can't afford it, and then they start to resent the person they have to pay. That feels a lot like what happened here.
The fact that y'all don't know that praise and worship leaders get paid and sometimes the team get paid is crazy. This is the comment that I got the most, not understanding or realizing that this actually happens. I'm going to talk from my personal experience, and only talking about me. I have been brought into like 4 churches to lead worship. Now, I wasn't a member at these churches. They felt that the music ministry needed something else, and they brought me in to lead worship. Now, in leading worship, it's just not getting up there and singing. I can talk about what I'm doing right now. Let me talk about what I'm doing right now. Let's jump into that. We're preparing for convocation, right? My husband is the minister of music at church. I am the praise and worship leader at the church. We sat yesterday for like 4 to 5 hours just tracking out like 3 to 4 songs. Now we need like 12, but just 3 to 4 songs. That's picking the songs that we already picked, formatting the songs, possibly recording vocals to go underneath our vocals. Then actually having to hear from God, pray about it. I rehearse with the team, I rehearse by myself, and I rehearse with my husband. That is a full-time job. Period. Now when you're a member of the church, like I grew up in my grandmother's church. So with that being said, there was no pay. I was a member there. Just went, we had devotional service. It was what it was. I don't even think we rehearsed, like sometimes, but that is what it is. But I just told you on a weekly basis that there could be possibly 3 rehearsals plus picking songs, choosing songs, hearing from God, praying. We fast, we do all the things. So I'm shocked that y'all didn't know that people get paid to do this. Now, I'm not talking about your membership, because a lot of times when you're a member, you're serving there. But when you hire me, that's different. I want to say this, that if people keep saying church is not just spiritual. There's a business side of church, right? So you don't pay your water bill in tongues, right? So you don't take this whoop. Like, no, you pay it. There's bills and there's business that goes in church. And somebody said it best: when you put the church in a building, it became a business, and it really, really is. So you hire, like, your musicians get paid. Then there's, some of the praise and worship team and some of the praise and worship leaders. Now, I'm not talking about where I am now, so don't correlate, but they do get paid. I have definitely been, I'm shocked that people don't know this. But yes, it is a job. Look on Indeed, look on LinkedIn. It is a job. People are bringing you in. You do not go here. I do not serve here. So you're bringing me in specifically to do a job and to turn the music ministry around. A lot of times they will not say it, but they are getting something that they don't believe is here in this building. Like, that is the conversation I've had with leaders. That is a conversation. They call it praise and worship leader, or they titled it praise and worship pastor. But either way, all of these ministries felt like they needed something that wasn't here, that was lacking at this ministry. So yeah, it's a job. It's a real job, but it takes a lot to do this on a weekly basis. And if you're doing it, then you know. So it takes a lot to do it. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. But I promise you, there's money involved. The exchanging of money, it definitely happens. I'm just so taken back that people don't know that people are paid. Now, and it's not just on a mega church. I've never sang at a mega church. So it's not even like on a mega church level, because I know for a fact that there are mega churches that all of their team, or most of the team leaders that you see in front of everybody else, they're getting paid. They're not doing that for nothing. They were somewhere else or doing something else, or could be doing something else. And you acquired me to come here and to do a job specifically. And it takes a lot to do the job. They worthy of the hire. You worthy. We can we worthy of the hire. It's as simple as that. I don't think people understand how much goes into what you have to do on a weekly basis, but there's definitely compensation. And there's levels to this. There is levels to this.
Look, the reality is that church work is still work. As Renee Wolf put it so perfectly, oddly enough, mortgage companies, electricity providers, daycare facilities, gas stations, grocery stores, etc. will not accept praise, smiles, hugs as payment. Crazy, right? That is just the truth. We live in the real world. Most American churches run on a nonprofit model, and paying staff is how they use the tithes and offerings that come in. Valuing our worship teams means respecting their time, honoring their skill, and yes, when the church is able, compensating them for their professional labor. It's not selling worship, it's honoring the worker. And when we fail to do that, we create the kind of messy, ungodly situation that we all just witnessed. That's my reaction to your comments. This is a huge conversation and I want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts below. Let's have a respectful discussion. And if this was helpful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It's a conversation the church clearly needs to have. Until next time, grace and peace.